Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. What an honour, pleasure and privilege it is to be able to be here with each and every single one of you. I want to extend my most profound gratitude to Terry Ann for that sterling introduction. I want to thank Kat for the wonderful meeting that we had in Indianapolis that has resulted in me being here with you this afternoon. What an honour, pleasure and privilege it is to be in the land of the free and the home of the brave. In the world's exceptional nation. And in civilization's indispensable country. And to top it all off, if all of that weren't enough, with the biggest Republican women's club in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to begin this afternoon by sharing with you a story. And as I share this story with you, I invite you to momentarily close your eyes and really imagine what it is that I am sharing with you. It's December of 1985. Two parents are at their wits' end. Something is wrong with their 16-month-old child. For months they've been to doctor after doctor, pediatrician after pediatrician, but nobody can tell them what is wrong. One night, with their child even more unsettled than usual, they head to the emergency ward of the local children's hospital. The ward is almost deserted, but there is one overnight doctor there, a young man with a smiling face and an accent. As he looks the child over, his smile quickly evaporates. He tells the parents that he can't be sure, but he has a hunch that he may have seen this before, and he fears that their child has a very rare form of childhood cancer. He prescribes a certain set of tests and commands the parents to return the very next morning at 8 a.m. to have those tests conducted. The very next day, the parents' worst fears would be confirmed. Their child had stage 4 neuroblastoma, a very rare form of childhood cancer indeed. The parents were mine. The child was me. The doctor, it turned out, was an American. The cause of neuroblastoma remains unknown to this day, with only 1 in 100,000 children being diagnosed with it each year. Notoriously difficult to diagnose when it is, the tumour has almost always already metastasized. A child, an infant, a baby with stage 4 neuroblastoma is given just a 5% chance of life. Only 1 in 20 survive. For 3.5 years, I underwent chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and an operation. And through the healing hands of God, our master physician, I defied the odds and lived. It was the instincts of an American doctor, fresh out of college, just in Australia for a summer residency, that proved crucial to my survival. So I'm fond of saying that I haven't only studied American exceptionalism, I've lived it. In fact, I am alive because of it. Once I became of an age where I could properly comprehend the magnitude of my escape, I resolved to never ever waste a single second of a minute of an hour of a day of a month of a year ever. And I am really proud to be able to report to you here today at the Republican Women of Prescott that I have very much lived up to that self-commitment. I was the valedictorian of my school. I was publicly elected to political office at the age of 19, becoming one of the youngest ever elected councilmen in Sydney, Australia. The first election I ever voted in, I voted for myself. It's all been downhill since then. On the 13th of September 2005, just 8 days after my 21st birthday, I was elected the youngest deputy mayor in Australian history in Sydney, a record which still stands to this day. I am a 4-time New York Times best-selling author, and I have the distinction of being the first author, as Terry Ann pointed out, of having a book endorsed by a sitting president of the United States, and that honour was bestowed upon me on the 3rd of March 2017 when President Trump took to Twitter, where else, to declare that my book Green Card Warrior was a must-read and that I was a great American. He followed it up 6 months later on the 25th of August 2017 with another tweet endorsing my previous book, Retaking America, Crushing Political Correctness. Now that does sound like his kind of book, doesn't it? Making me the only author to have had 2 books endorsed by a sitting president of the United States. And in fact, the president was photographed boarding Marine One on his way to Camp David in September of 2017 with Retaking America under his arm, which has prompted many in the media to rather generously refer to me as the president's favourite author. So that's been quite the journey. Many of you will recognise me from television. I'm a Fox News and Fox Business commentator. I have spoken now in 42 of the 50 states. I've given keynote addresses in 6 different countries. I am recognised worldwide as an authority on American exceptionalism. In fact, I have decided to dedicate my life to promoting, protecting and perpetuating what I consider to be the greatest idea ever, the American idea. To top all of that off, if all of that weren't enough, on the 29th of July 2016, after 4.5 long, torturous and arduous years, and close to $50,000 later, including a stint on the no-fly list, courtesy of the Obama administration and John Kerry's State Department, I finally legally immigrated to the United States of America. I'm an American. And since I have been in the United States, I have had all of these wonderful honours bestowed upon me. Governor Perry kicked it off by appointing me an honorary Texan. Not to be outdone, Governor Mary Fallon of Oklahoma made me an honorary Oklahoman. Governor Matt Bevin got in on the act and decided to commission me a Kentucky colonel. Governor Pete Ricketts decided to outdo them all and made me a Nebraskan admiral. Governor Asa Hutchinson in Arkansas recently made me an Arkansas traveller. And just a couple of weeks ago in South Carolina, I was given the Order of the Palmetto, which is the highest award that a non-resident of South Carolina can achieve. So I'm hoping that one day perhaps I can have the greatest honour here in the great state of Arizona. So, ladies and gentlemen, what is it that I believe in? I believe in God, personal responsibility, the sanctity of human life, limited government, a strong national defence, the right to bear arms, the state of Israel. Up there with all of those things, I believe in the United States of America. And if there is one take-home message that I have for you this afternoon, if there is one thing that I want you to remember when you go home later this afternoon or perhaps earlier in the night and rest your head on your cold pillow, it is this. Despite the undeniable, indisputable and incontrovertible problems, challenges, threats and realities currently afflicting the United States of America, this is still easily, by far and away, hands down, head and shoulders, the greatest country in the history of the world. Every single time I speak to an elementary school, middle school, public high school, or college audience, I look those students in the eyes and I tell them that the day that they were born in the United States of America, or the day that they permanently moved to the United States of America, is the day that they won the lottery of life. And they got the most incredible, the most amazing, the most remarkable, the most sensational head start on anyone and everyone everywhere else. This is the best country in the world to be born in. This is the best country in the world to live in. This is the best country in the world to work in. This is the best country in the world to start a business in, to grow a business in, to realize a dream. This is the only country in the world where you can colour outside of the lines and not be punished. This is the only country in the world where you can blaze a trail and leave a legacy. This is the only country in the world where success is not yet resented but still admired and aspired to. This is the only country in the world where your first language or last name means absolutely nothing. This is the only country in the world where anybody can rise above any set of circumstances to go on and achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve. This is the only country in the world where failure is not fatal, where you can fall down 5,000 times, but if you've got grit, determination and hustle, you can get up 5,001. Thomas Edison had 1,000 cracks at the light bulb. Colonel Sanders had his recipe for fried chicken rejected 1,009 times before he got a take. Our 16th president, Abraham Lincoln, lost his first 12 elections on the trot. Walt Disney went bankrupt twice, almost 3 times. Same story with Henry Ford. Again and again and again, throughout American history, the recurring theme has been that those with passion, those that refuse to yield, those that persist, end up leaving a legacy well beyond their time on this earth. America's a unique place. After all, where else can you go bankrupt 3 times and become president of the United States of America? You see, ladies and gentlemen, America is special because America is the only country that is not just a country, not simply a stretch of land, not merely a geographic entity. America is an idea. It is an ideal. It is a value system. An improbable and daring experiment that remains equally as improbable and daring today. It's the shot that was heard around the world and still is. There are 4 ways that a nation is said to be exceptional: culturally, militarily, economically, and scientifically. And on each of those 4 measurements, in almost 5,000 years of recorded human history, and you want to hear the kicker? With less than 5% of the world's population. With less than 5% of the world's population. America has dominated those 4 spheres to an extent previously considered impossible. But none of that success, none of that power, none of that might, none of that influence, none of that wealth just happened. None of it was accidental. None of it was incidental. No, to the contrary, all of it was extraordinarily deliberate, extremely intentional. You see, the most brilliant men to have ever walked this earth were our founders, who understood that the way to unlocking human ingenuity, the way to unleashing human creativity, the way to driving human accomplishment was to make sure that men and women were as unencumbered as possible by the need for government approvals and red tape. It's for precisely the same reason that the United States of America has ascended to the position of guardian of liberty, as the custodian of civilization. I want you to contemplate for just one moment what the world might look like without the United States of America. North Korea would invade South Korea. Taiwan would be overrun by China. War, maybe nuclear, would break out in the Middle East. Russia would attempt to rebuild the Soviet Empire. Islamic terrorists would act with complete impunity. Tyrants in North Africa would run around even more mercilessly than what they already do. Cataclysmic natural disasters would have no concerted, coordinated response effort. Individual liberty would gradually diminish and ultimately become extinct. That's what a world without America looks like. And that's why it's in the interest of everyone, no matter who you are, where you come from, what you do, which one of the new 57 different genders you choose to identify with, what bathroom you elect to use, even if you have never so much as even set your little toe on US soil. It's in your interests that America be as robust, as healthy, as self-confident, and as self-assertive as possible. Why? Because the equation is very simple. What is good for America is good for the world. When America is strong, the world is strong. When America is weak, the world is a weak and dangerous place. Now that's not my hypothesis that I've scribbled on the back of a cocktail napkin after a few too many drinks at the Prescott Resort Centre lobby bar. We were living that reality real time up until just 3 years ago, when we had elites at the highest levels of the federal government insistent on retreating from the world, and instead of leading from the front, chose to lead from behind. The result, while the world is now calming under the new leadership of the President of the 45th President of the United States, it remains infinitely more dangerous than it had been for a very, very long period of time. Ladies and gentlemen, political correctness is killing the United States of America. You see, here's the deal. Most people think that political correctness is simply something that tells us what we can say and what we can't say. Well, that would be egregious enough with our proud tradition of the First Amendment. But I'm here to tell you, with regret rich in my voice, that political correctness is infinitely more than that, way more than that. Political correctness is a mindset. It's a cultural attitude, a mentality that says that you should strive for mediocrity and not greatness. That you shouldn't colour outside of the lines lest you be punished. That you should resent those that have differentiated themselves professionally, financially, or in some other fashion more so than you. In fact, political correctness mandates that success and achievement be a measurement of how much butt you kiss as opposed to how much butt you kick. What could be more un-American and un-Arizonian than that? Political correctness is a choking conformity, an intellectual tyranny, a totalitarian ideology that strips us of our individualism, eliminates our patriotism, removes our self-confidence. And in doing so, political correctness is transforming the American dream into the European nightmare. And why on earth would we want to follow the trajectories of the once grand nations of Europe, now with demography in decline, Islam in the ascendancy, where moral clarity is conspicuously absent, where churches are being routinely transformed into nightclubs? Those cultures, those societies, those polities have become moribund and pedestrian and grey and vanilla and dull. There's no passion, there's no innovation, there are no inventions. That's not the future that we want for the United States of America. That's not the future that we want for our children and our grandchildren and our great-great-great-grandchildren. And that's certainly not the future that our founders had envisioned for us. America is complex, but American exceptionalism is really, really, really simple. It's individualism, not collectivism. It's patriotism, not relativism. It's God, not government. Faith, not secularism. It's equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. It's e pluribus unum, not radical multiculturalism. It's about being bold, not being bland. These are the virtues and values that have differentiated the United States of America from every other society on this earth in almost 5,000 years. But proponents and advocates of political correctness would seek to eliminate every single one of those points of differentiation, rendering America just another country, just another
Are you
place.
recording this? Oh, you should be.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's very personal to me.
Wow.
I chose to come to the United States of America.
We need to
I
get
came
that recording
to make,
out to the membership somehow.
not take, to give, not receive, to join the place, not complain about it or change it. I came because I knew this was the greatest country in the world. I came because I knew that this was the place that would afford me the most freedom and the most opportunity to achieve the dreams that God put in my heart. But I also came here in no small, insignificant, or insubstantial way to make sure that the United States of America does not turn out like the country I felt I had to live. Most Americans, like most people around the world, think that in Australia people box kangaroos by day and wrestle crocodiles by night. If that were the case, perhaps I might still be there. But the international perception is vastly different to the domestic reality. Australia is and has always been an infinitely more European place in instinct, in proclivity, in values, and in setup. And anybody that has even just a cursory knowledge of important policy areas like healthcare and gun ownership will know that America truly does stand alone when it comes to culture, values, and setup. And that is why I am on a mission to make sure that every single American, from north to south, east to west, and everywhere in between, knows how lucky and how fortunate and how blessed they are to call America home. But especially our young, particularly those that will be bequeathed with the most awesome responsibility conceivable, keeping the grand American experiment and dream alive. I want them to know how lucky and how fortunate and how blessed they are to call America home. I don't want our children just being lukewarm on America. I want them to be red, piping, burning hot for America. I want every child in this country to have a heart beating for this nation. I want every child in this country to have their eyes well up when they see the video that we saw earlier. That's why I set up an organisation called FLAG, the Foundation for Liberty and American Greatness, one of the fastest growing non-profits in America today. FLAG is all about two things. Our mission is very simple. Number one, teaching civics, and number two, putting patriotism back in public schools. We do it 3 ways. Number 1, through classroom visits. Number 2, through the creation and distribution of kid-friendly resources relating to our founding. And number 3, through professional development training for teachers, where we teach teachers how to teach civics the way that it was taught to all of you. Flag teamed up with a worldwide leading polling agency called YouGov last year, and we polled 1,179 young people aged between 15 and 35. It was what we called our State of Patriotism report. It's a project that we undertake each year, and we plan to undertake in subsequent years. Many of the results that I'm about to quote to you are going to be familiar, because the results of our poll got widespread and very significant coverage in all major media markets. I think even our friends at CNN might have devoted 10 seconds to it. Those results, ladies and gentlemen, 48% of those polled agreed with one of the following statements: America is a sexist country, America is a racist country, America is a homophobic country. 46% of those polled said that they believed that Barack Obama had a greater impact on America than George Washington. 23% agreed with the statement that America was never great and never will be. 27% said that they found absolutely nothing wrong with burning the American flag. And 18% of those polled between the ages of 15 and 24 said that they believe that Judge Judy serves on the Supreme Court. Ladies and gentlemen, we are losing our country. We are losing our culture. In 2016, I went in to 42 different public schools across 13 different states. And I knew that what I would discover was going to be bad, but nothing could possibly have prepared me for just how bad. I discovered that today's young Americans do not even, in most cases, have a basic appreciation or understanding of our 3 founding documents: the United States Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the Federalist Papers. So we decided to do something about it. Flag teamed up with interns from the late Justice Antonin Scalia's office, and we got the United States Constitution into plain, simple, easy to understand English that even a 5th grader can comprehend. We launched it. Thank you. We launched it live on Fox News with a special 3-hour event in Manhattan on the Fox News Plaza. This resource has been a rocket ship for us. On the heels of the stunning success of the Students' Constitution, we did the exact same thing with the Students' Declaration of Independence, launching it in April of 2018. To complete the set, we also created the Students' Federalist Papers. And most recently, our other 2 resources are the Citizen's Guide to the Electoral College, because we know what the left are going to come after next. And we got our Students' Constitution translated into Spanish. If we can translate the Bible, we can translate our Constitution to evangelize our values and our founding. Extraordinarily popular right now in this state and in Texas and in California. I'm also really pleased to be able to tell you that we now have at least one of those 5 resources in the hands of more than 750,000 public school students in all 50 states. And we're just getting started. In addition to that, we have our Flag Schools Pledge, where we get schools to commit to doing 3 very simple things. Number 1, display an American flag in every classroom. Number 2, recite the Pledge of Allegiance every day. And number 3, sing the national anthem before all major sporting events. And again, I'm proud to report to you that as of last Friday afternoon, we now have 8,762 schools signed up to that commitment nationwide. And last October, we hosted, the first time ever in the Conservative movement, a conference for public school teachers, where teachers travelled to Philadelphia. They got 16 hours of professional development credit toward their continuing professional education requirements. They left with 30 lesson plans ready to go Monday morning. They got to tour Liberty Bell and Constitution Hall. And I want you to think about how many students a teacher will influence and impact over the course of their career. We're talking potentially hundreds of thousands, millions of students. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how we win back the future. That is how we transform a generation. In addition to that, in addition to our patriotic efforts, in classrooms, we've also declared war on this idea that every student has got to go to college. I went to college, I got 2 degrees, I had a great time. But the reality is that not everybody is made for college. And we need electricians and plumbers and machinists and carpenters and welders and entrepreneurs. And there are some really good reasons that we do not want our children going to college unless they are tailor-made for it. Number 1, we want them to avoid the almost inevitable liberal indoctrination that awaits them on any college campus. Number 2, we don't want them graduating up to their eyeballs saddled in debt. Number 3, we want to virtually guarantee them a job. And number 4, and most attractive of all, we want to give the maximum amount of young Americans the chance to one day go and do the most American thing of all. Start their own business. Create wealth. Achieve the American dream. Employ people. So let me close with this. America this year will celebrate her 244th birthday. A time for great celebration. But I would also submit a time for sober and somber contemplation. Because if you go and ask any historian worth their salt how long great nations tend to last, they'll tell you somewhere between 230 and 270 years. And that puts America right in the kill zone. To make matters worse, the enemies of the United States are no longer only foreign, they're also domestic. There are people within America rooting for America's failure or decline. So the fight, the battle, the war, the struggle that we are going to have to embark on is going to be worse than any that we have been through before. But as a lifelong student of American history, I remain unswervingly convinced that, as the President says, the best is yet to come. Alexis de Tocqueville, the famous French nobleman who came out here in the 18th century, observed in his sociological masterpiece that the true genius of Americans lay in their ability to repair their faults. Sir Winston Churchill, the great wartime Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, once similarly affectionately jibed that America always does the right thing after exhausting every other option. And here I stand before you today as a third outsider telling you that I identify the same boomerang spirit, the same resilience in the American psyche. Let me tell you something that you already know, but you need to hear again. For the last 60 years, there has been a culture war raging in this country. But only one side has been fighting it. They've done it with violence, the threat of violence, lies, and the hostile takeovers of universities. They are dedicated to nothing short of our annihilation. And in the pursuit of that objective, they are governed only by two things: the rules of Saul Alinsky and the Chicago mob. While this culture war has raged, we conservatives, we hard-working, everyday, regular, ordinary American men and women have been busy saving up our money, paying off our mortgages, growing our businesses, sending our children off to college. And we have consistently and constantly and continually sought the high ground and elevated things like collegiality and propriety and dignity, to the point now where we wake up in the morning, we turn on the television, we almost choke on our bacon and eggs because we cannot believe what we are seeing. The local high school is changing its name. The statue outside the courthouse that's been there for eons has been designated for removal. The elementary school 2 counties away has officially changed the school calendar to read from Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. Day in and day out, there is a relentless assault on American values, a relentless assault on all of the things that you and I know and love. And it is for two reasons. Number one, all of the institutions that shape and generate our culture are in the hands of people that want to fundamentally transform our country. Number two, the passion gap. It hurts me to say, but the only way we're going to have any chance of winning this fight is by being brutally candid. For the last 60 years, the left in this country have wanted to destroy America more than we have wanted to protect it. And until we can match them in intensity, in passion, and in strategy, and beat them at this street fight, we are going to continue to lose all of the things that are so dear to all of us. This is a war that we did not start, but it is a war that we will finish. This is a war that we did not invite, but it is a war that we will attend, because as it turns out, it is a necessary war. This right here, ladies and gentlemen, where I stand and you sit, is freedom's Colosseum. Freedom is going to live, or freedom is going to perish, right here on this soil. The rest of the world is too far gone. And the pages of the history books yet to be written will reflect the actions that we determined to take at this junction. Did we invest in the next generation of Americans? Did we insist on our people believing in American values, or did we permit them to believe in European values? Did we make every conceivable effort to secure this republic? Did we continue to be bullied and harassed and intimidated and silenced by political correctness? Or did we relegate it right where it belongs, on the dusty bottom bookshelf of some fourth-rate library in the middle of nowhere? These are the questions whose answers will determine what happens. But I want you to have hope. I want you, Terry Ann, I want you to have hope too. I want you to have hope, because by virtue of the work that I do, I'm in a different city every day across this marvellous country. And I want you to know that there are patriots in the unlikeliest of places fighting gallantly for our values. There are more of us than there are them. But they're louder than us. This is a fight that we can win. This is a fight that we must win. This is a fight that we will win. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. God bless you. God bless Arizona. And God bless the United States of America.